And now we're going to talk some ACC football on EOFN today, the Our Lads Football Network. And when we talk Clemson football, there's only one man that we turn to, Phil Kornblut. Phil, what is this, 38 years now?
The room is thin. The room is thin. This is 39 football seasons for our
39.
sports talk show. Yeah, we went on the air in September of 1984. So I go by football season. So this will be number 39 for the
Okay.
show.
So
Yes,
you
sir.
probably started out as a janitor and now you own the station.
That's pretty much the case. Yes.
Yes.
Own the network started out as the number two guy, weekend announcer, morning sportscast guy, and just had to outlast everybody.
That's it. And
Yeah,
you've done it. You're the man.
yeah, right.
So, and you've seen a lot of good, but and bad. But lately, it's been a lot of good for Clemson football. Last year, ups and downs. Started 8-0. Things looked pretty darn good there for a little bit. But you could tell there were some potential issues that could be exploited, especially after the Syracuse game, and that's exactly happened. Exactly what happened is the team lost 3 out of 6. Their starting quarterback departed. He is now at Oregon State, and it's now up to Clade Klubnik to take over. So, what's the word as far as how he's been looking, and how confident do you think the team is right now with him as the lead man?
Well, first of all, if you follow Clemson football, you follow their camps every year. Nary is a negative word ever uttered about a player. So from Dabo Sweeney, so the words we get out of him about Cade Klubnik is all is good. He likes Klubnik, thinks he's going to be a terrific leader for them, thinks that this offense that they are installing now with Garrett Riley fits him extremely well, will take advantage of his ability as a runner as well as a thrower. And they hope that he will cut down on the mistakes that plagued him when he did have some playing time last year, the interceptions in particular. So uh, uh, even though he hasn't played a whole lot, he played some last year and he ended up taking over the team during the ACC championship game and then was the quarterback in the bowl game in the loss to Tennessee. He hasn't had all that much experience. So it's basically like starting brand new for Clemson at quarterback. And how much they want to put on him from the outset, we'll just have to wait and see how Garrett Riley feels about that. When you've got two quality running backs like they have in Shipley and Maffa,
Yeah.
and when you've got a pretty good offensive line with four starters returning, you would think by and large they're going to line up and try and run the football. You might see some two tight ends, maybe a lot of two tight ends. They've got a couple of tight ends they can trot out there and feel good about. But, I don't think they will put it all on this young quarterback at the outset, kind of let him work his way into it, let the game continue to slow down for him before asking him to do too much. He made some big plays for him, but that was sort of backyard football last year when something would break down, like in the Syracuse game. When he came in, he made some big plays. And again, that was like running around and just using his athleticism to make something happen. Now we'll see how things work with teams preparing for him for a full week
Yep.
because up until the bowl game, they were preparing for DJ Uyangalele and not for Cade Klubnik. So now the teams will be ready. Duke is with their excellent head coach in terms of his defensive knowledge and prowess, and most of that defense from last year returning, which was pretty good. This will be a good test for Clemson
Yeah.
right off the bat in Durham on Monday night.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna post the depth chart at our lads as we talk, and I got to tell you, I mean, I've been doing a ton of interviews and looking at a ton of depth charts, and I think this is the first one that I've noticed. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, where are all the transfers?
Well, there aren't any for
Well,
Clemson.
yeah, that's just like I said, this is it. I've never seen it. Uh,
Yeah, he doesn't do Dabo doesn't do transfers. He gives it lip service. Like they do have a transfer quarterback in Paul Tyson, who I don't know if you know this or not, is the great grandson of Bear Bryant.
okay,
But that was a take really just a take to fill up the quarterback room. He's not, excuse me, not really a factor right now, at least based on the depth chart Clemson has put out and everything we've heard out of practice. The backup is Hunter Helms, who's a former walk-on who is still a walk-on. Um, Dabo does not really believe in dipping into the transfer portal. He believes in taking players and developing players. That's always been his philosophy. He is, I don't know, on an island almost by himself
Yeah.
when it comes to that approach to the transfer portal. Just doesn't want to touch it. Um, did go after a center last year that they could have used, but he ended up going to Michigan and being a standout for them. They've come up short in a couple of cases where they have looked at transfers, but he has not made the transfer recruiting side of things an emphasis for his staff. They still focus on high schoolers and in internal player development.
And I think that's great as long as you don't lose and then don't gain. So have they lost many or any key players the last couple of years in the portal?
Oh yeah, of course. You know they've lost some backup guys. They lost some receivers in particular in the portal, so they have had some departures, but they just don't believe in going in and replacing them with the like.
Okay.
They believe in recruiting high school players. They don't recruit junior college players either.
Okay.
That has been Dabo Sweeney's forte, part of his culture at Clemson, and you have to kind of admire that he stands by that. You know,
Sure.
he has some
Absolutely.
things that he stands by that might cost him down the road. He has been openly opposed to paying players per se, though he's come around on the NIL deal, and Clemson has taken big steps in that area in developing their own NIL program and their own collectives. Um, but they try to tie their NIL activities into charity work. So they try to show their players doing charity work, but these players also like being sponsored by certain people, certain companies to go do charity work in which they'll get their money, but at the same time, they're giving something back in charity. That's sort of how Clemson tries to frame it. Now, there's also, of course, some of their bigger star players, I'm sure, are making money from their social media following the way the kids do today. But Clemson is sort of unique in that. And then, of course, there's his basically no transfer policy as far as taking transfers. And then there's his policy of that he has not wavered from this. Uh, you commit to Clemson, you don't visit any other schools. If you cannot end your recruiting with your commitment to Clemson, then don't commit to Clemson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's upfront with families and players about that when they are doing the recruiting thing. He tells them, if you commit to us, you're not allowed to take any other visits, unofficial or official. Otherwise, he'll drop you. And that has happened in the past. And we've seen some players decommit for the purpose of taking other officials. Sometimes they come back to Clemson, sometimes they go somewhere else.
Okay.
But I will say in recruiting that I think Clemson, and they have a very good recruiting class, don't get me wrong. I mean, their recruiting class is going to get high marks again this year. But I see them losing more recruiting battles like they used to win, but I see them losing them now.
Yeah.
And I think the NIL world has a lot to do with that.
Sure.
Because other schools, they're not trying to hide the fact that they
No.
are using the NIL funds to get players.
Yeah.
And they're not playing any games with it. It's like, okay, you need 150 grand, you need 200. We can make that happen,
Yeah.
So is it going to catch up with Dabo Swinney and Clemson at some point in time? Maybe it is because, in the eyes of the national media, they've slipped. Preseason ranking of number 9, which is their lowest in many, many years. Now they can go out and prove everybody wrong. Don't get me wrong, but they've missed the playoffs the last 2 years after that 6-year run. They got questions at quarterback. They got a question at left tackle. Their receivers have to play better than they did last year. They've got to be better in the secondary than they were last year. Their front 6 on defense will be outstanding. Their defensive line, their linebackers will be outstanding. Kicking game was, except for BT Potter, who was steady throughout his career until he missed a slew of field goals in the bowl game. But he's gone. They've replaced him with a strong-legged young man who they think can do the job. And And then Aiden Swanson has been, about an average punter. So they've got a few question marks going into this season, and we'll find out, if they've got the answers come Monday night.
All right. Well, let's dive in at some of these positions that you've already teased us about.
Mm-hmm.
And who would be the number two if something happens, either injuries or a poor performance at quarterback? Is there a definite number two?
Well, first of all, if something happens to Klubnik, I think they're in a world of hurt.
Oh, okay.
Now, the stated backup is Hunter Helms. Again, he's a walk-on, but he's never played. He's never taken a serious
walk-on who's
snap,
never
meaningful
played.
snap.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean he's had some mop-up duty,
Sure.
but meaningful snaps, no. Then you have Paul Tyson, who is a transfer, who's been dealing with a bit of an injury. Was dealing with a bit of an injury when he came to Clemson. I think he's healthy now, but again, he on the depth chart he hasn't surpassed Hunter Helms. Then you have Christopher Vazina, who is a true freshman who they have stated that they want to redshirt, so he could play in 4 games and he could also play in a bowl game and maintain that redshirt. Their hope is to redshirt him. Then they have a walk-on freshman from just down the road at Daniel High School named Trent Pierman, whose dad used to be a tight ends coach and played tight end at Clemson and is still around the program in some capacity. And he was a very good high school player for a very good high school team, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in South Carolina. And Sweeney has talked about him in camp as showing some good stuff. So the point is, behind Klubnik, who has very little experience himself, they have no experience.
Okay.
And if Klubnik goes down, they're in a world of hurt at the quarterback position, unless somebody steps up and can play hero.
But you would say, would you guess then that Vizina is the most talented? But that doesn't mean anything if he does have to play at this early in his career.
Right. I mean, he's a touted high school prospect out of
Yeah.
Birmingham. I don't really pay attention to star ratings because, look, one of the most impressive freshmen they've got this year, who's on the depth chart in a number of different positions, is a guy who's like one of the last players they took, Tyler Brown, a wide receiver.
Okay.
They took these other wide receivers, much more heralded. Well, they're going to redshirt them. He's going to play. He's going to play some wide receiver, and he's going to be a player in the return game.
Okay.
But he was like a last take, last thought kind of guy. They didn't offer him until late in the process.
Okay.
So my point is that, you never know with
Absolutely
who you got, what you got, and what you don't have. So again, the depth chart tells us Hunter Helms would be the next guy in. But if Klubnik were to suffer a serious injury that would sideline him for an extended period, I would guess they might rush Vazina on up and take the red shirt off of him and try and get him ready, because he's, from a reputation standpoint, he's the second most talented player in the bunch.
Okay. And did you say Tony Brown?
No, it's Tyron Brown.
Tyron Brown.
Now you got me. It's
Yeah, because I don't see him on the depth chart, and like you said, it was late in the process, so I want to make sure that we put him on the depth chart.
It's
and he's wide receiver.
To find my Clemson. Where's my Clemson depth chart? My Clemson roster. Here we go. Oh, this might help me. It is. It's let's see. Tyler Brown.
Tyler Brown. Got it.
Tyler Brown, number 6, 5'11", 170, out of Greenville High.
Okay.
Oh, he's on their new depth chart. Let me see.
Yeah, we don't have it though. That's why I want to make sure he's on there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Backup receiver. I think he's in the slot. I think they've got him in the slot.
Okay. Got it. All right. So no such problems as you said at running back. So this is going to be the 2 men, and then Will Shipley is going to have a really good NFL career. We got an opportunity to take a look at the bigger dude last year. Is it Maffa? So tell me about what's his ceiling like?
Well, they're calling these two guys the new Thunder and Lightning, which they are taking from their previous duo of Thunder and Lightning and C.J. Spiller and James Davis, who, by the way, C.J.'s an assistant, a coaching assistant, and James is back as a graduate assistant. So they're back together off the
Okay.
field. Now they've got a new duo they're calling Thunder and Lightning. And Shipley is the explosive, out in space, make a big play kind of guy. And Maffa is your pounded up inside, but still has good enough speed. If he can break through the first level and get kind of downfield, he can break a big play as well. But Shipley's the guy they like to get out in space, um, short passes to the wings, dig routes across the middle, coming out of the backfield. Um, Pitch it to him, let him run wide, and he's tough enough to take it up inside. Of course, he's a
Yeah.
very tough runner himself, and the kid just gives great second and third effort. I mean, you can't bring him down on the first hit. You can't bring him down sometimes with the second hit because he's still digging. So he's a third level effort guy too. So two really good running backs. One of the things that hurt them last year, people who want to criticize the offense that was being run by Brandon Streeter, was that too many times they didn't get the ball to Shipley enough. He'd go extended periods without touching the ball, and people wondered why.
Okay.
Uh, and so I don't think you'll have any wonder why this time around. First of all,
Okay.
they're going to go faster. This is going to be an up-tempo offense. Will it be Tennessee fast? I don't know. Tennessee, of course, they're at a completely different level when it comes to going fast. But I think that Garrett Riley will try and up-tempo and get more snaps, and that should mean more touches for Shipley. They should get the ball to Shipley.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. He's really the new age NFL running back. So I think he's going to have a really good career there. Receiving department. So right now there's talent there, but they really haven't had like that dynamite number one guy the last year or two. Is that correct? And do you think that they have that guy on the roster?
Well, Dabo himself would tell you that they were a disappointment as a group last year, wide receivers. In fact, in the offseason, he said two things they've got to do better is catch the football and defend the pass. They got burned a lot in the secondary last year, got burned deep. They hope to be better. They dropped a lot of passes last season. Uyangalele, people were getting on him, of course, because he is the quarterback. Truly the case where he got too much blame because there were a lot of passes that hit the dirt that weren't his fault. There were some that were overthrows and off the target, but there were some drops out there as well. So I would imagine that Antonio Williams, who as a freshman last year had a very quiet, I think it was 56 catches, not bad for a freshman.
No.
But because the group as a whole was getting criticized, that his numbers are kind of overlooked. So he did have a good year. Expect him to be better. Bo Collins has been injury prone. If he's healthy, he's a big target receiver for him. Adam Randall spent part of last season coming off a knee injury. Took him a while to get up to par, but now healthy, and he gives them another big body receiver. Behind them, you got some smaller guys in Spector and Turner and Stellato. Stellato continues to battle hamstring injuries. He has been hampered through both of his camps at Clemson. But they feel like with those five, and then you throw in the before mentioned freshman Brown, and then another freshman Noble Johnson, though they would like to redshirt him. He's another freshman who could find himself getting some snaps in there at some point in time. So, they're about 7 or 8 deep at wide receiver that they'll rotate in there and rotate out.
Okay. And Noble Johnson and Brown. No, you believe Tyler's ahead of him on the depth chart?
Correct. Yeah, Tyler Brown is the one of the freshmen who's
freshmen.
emerged who's likely going to
Okay.
get some snaps. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned the offensive line, a lot more experience. They do lose McFadden, so it's always interesting when you take a look at returning starters and you see like 10 of 11 guys are coming back, but then you go, oh, yeah, but the one guy that left is like the best guy in the team. So it's sort of like the offensive line this year. Everybody's a lot of experience, but maybe the best guy isn't there. But maybe the best guy is, because there's still some talent there. Putnam, is he the most talented Parks has also had some accolades. And you said that there's an issue at left tackle?
Correct. I would say that Putnam's the most tenacious of the offensive linemen. He started his career at guard, moved to center last year when the centers they had really didn't develop and they did not feel comfortable with them. So they moved him to center. That let them put Marcus Tate, and he was on the Putnam was on the right side, so Tate was on the left side. Then they moved Walker Parks from right tackle to right guard, and a freshman last year, Blake Miller, started at the right tackle spot.
Okay.
So really, what they have is Miller is their right tackle. Um, the right guard is Parks. The left guard is Tate. Putnam is the center. And then the left tackle is probably going to be Tristan Lee or Colin Sadler. That's the one spot on their depth chart that's an or on the offensive line. So they return 4 starters who've played a lot of football for them, and they're pretty good. And then if Lee or Sadler can hold up at the left tackle spot, then their offensive line should be really good. Should be really good. And Mitchell Mays is going to back up at 2 or 3 different spots.
Okay.
He's played a lot of ball for him as well, especially after Tate got hurt last year. You'll see him, and you'll see Dietrich Pennington stepping up and playing as well, and maybe freshman Harris Sewell. He is, they say, ready to play as a freshman in a backup capacity. So those are probably your top 3 backups at this time.
And you said Parks at right guard?
Parks would be the right guard, yes.
And did you say Tate was at left guard?
The left guard would be Marcus Tate. Yeah, Marcus Tate's
Tate.
the left guard.
Okay.
Yeah, just like you have it on your
just like I have it. Yeah, but
yeah.
the changes.
You got your tackles wrong.
The
Lee
changes
would be on the left side, and Miller would be on the right side.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's talk defense, because this is the side of the ball really that has kept them in a lot of games when the offense isn't clicking. So you see some quality numbers coming back. How good could this defense be compared to the defenses that they've fielded the last several years?
They'll be as good on defense as their secondary is.
Okay.
Their first 6, extremely good. The defensive front, the linebackers, probably as good as anybody you'll see in the country. Tyler Davis is a difference maker, of course, at the nose. He's a veteran guy. They've got a freshman named Peter Woods that they just can't say enough about, who's going to see a lot of playing time at one of the inside tackle positions. He's going to pick up a lot of that slack left behind by Brian Bresee, who's now in the NFL.
Okay.
Peter Woods is that good, supposedly, so you're going to hear a lot about him. He's probably going to emerge as a first-round draft pick in 3 more years. You'll be talking a lot about him coming up. But Xavier Thomas is back for what seems like his 10th year.
Yeah.
But he's in excellent shape, and they expect a lot out of him. So you got him at one defensive end. I mentioned Davis and Woods. Rook Orhoro will be at the other defensive tackle, and I'm not stumbling there. That's his name, Rook Orhoro.
The other defensive end, just like it looks.
I beg your pardon?
It sounds just like it looks.
Just like it looks. It's just hard to look at it and say it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Your mouth freaks out.
Yeah.
Justin Maskell, the other defensive end, he's a veteran.
Okay.
Going to get his chance to play full time now. And then your 2 main linebackers, Barrett Carter, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I mean, they're both considered pros. Wade Woodaz is your other linebacker. He'll come out when they go to a nickel, or he can sub in and play one of the other linebacker spots. So those are your 3 linebackers. And then in the secondary, you've got, older guys now who've played a lot. Sheridan Jones at one corner, and you've got Nate Wiggins at another corner. And your safeties are R.J. Mickens and Jalen Phillips. They're all seniors or juniors. They play a lot of football. And then Andrew Makuba, who can play safety, is also the nickel back. And he's a veteran junior. So the entire secondary has played a lot. And they've got some freshmen now who will have to back up in some spots in the secondary. Guys like Kylon Griffin, a guy like Khalil Barnes at nickel. Avion Terrell, whose brother, of course, plays for the Falcons, has
Okay.
had a really good camp. Is backing up. He's the number 3 corner on one side. Shelton Lewis, another freshman, number 3 corner on one side. So they've got some freshmen who are showing up in the secondary. But across the board, you got Toriano Pride who's going to play. You got Sherrod Koval who's going to play in a backup role. Now,
Okay.
these guys have all played a lot of football for them. They should be, better back there than they were last year. And if they take that step up, then this defense will be outstanding because you're not going to run on them. You're not going to run up the middle on them. They're going to get a pass rush on you. Their linebackers are terrific playing the middle of the field or blitzing. And then, the secondary's just got to step up and play good football.
What kind of defense did they play?
They run a
Mostly?
4-man front. They run a 4-man front.
Is it like a
Usually it's a base
4-2-5
four,
mostly?
a base four. No, it's a base 4-3.
Base 4-3. Okay.
But like everybody, they'll pull a linebacker and throw an extra defensive back out there. They'll
Sure.
be a nickel quite a bit.
Okay. And that's where you're saying that Makuba, Mickens, and Phillips, they're basically just all going to play a lot. And you're
Yes,
saying
correct.
Makuba is more of a nickel than a safety.
He was a safety. They've got him at nickel. He got burned a lot last year as a safety. He had a really tough year.
Okay.
Wake Forest game really exposed him in Winston-Salem when Clemson pulled that one out in overtime. But Makuba got burned. He got burned in the South Carolina game a couple of times. So he had a difficult year. He's a very talented player. He had a difficult year. And, I don't know if it's as a result of that or they just see him better as a nickel that they got him listed as a nickel. But he can play straight safety. He can play strong or free if needed.
Okay. And who do you think has the biggest upside as far as the corners out of that group?
Well, I think that biggest upside, Jones and Wiggins have both done really good things in their careers to this point. I'm going to probably say, just based on what we've seen of them in their career so far, I'm probably going to lean towards Wiggins
Okay.
because he's had he's got good size. He's 6'2", 185. Jones is 6 feet, 190. But Wiggins is just, he's just made some big plays over the last 2 seasons. So if you're asking me just, my unprofessional opinion, I would say Wiggins.
Okay. And Carter and Trotter, you both put them kind of even. Do you think as good players that will be playing in the NFL, is one more of a leader than the other? Is one more of a difference maker?
Boy, I tell you, I think they're both difference makers. They're just a dynamic duo at linebacker. They're both 230 pounds. I think Carter is probably viewed as a guy that plays better out in space. Trotter plays the middle, so he takes up a lot of room in the middle, kind of roams the middle. You can bring him on the blitz, and Carter's kind of that guy who's out there in space, probably can pick up a receiver cutting across the middle, give you some coverage there, but very good against the run. He has excellent speed, probably faster than Trotter, I believe. So,
Okay.
Similar in some ways, but different in some ways as well.
Sure. And overall, is Tyler Davis, do you think he might be the most highly rated defender?
I would say so when you look at who's coming out, because he could have come out last year. He kind of played the game a little bit, but decided to come back. So, yeah, I think Tyler Davis is probably the highest of the outcoming players. It's probably the most highly regarded. Xavier Thomas probably has the most all-around talent. I mean, for a guy his size, 6'2", 245, he's really beefed himself up in a good way without losing his speed. His speed off the edge, of course, is what makes him go. His ability to get in the backfield and mess things up back there is what is what his strength is. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's had this, he's had that. He had some other issues. I think he had some, kind of off the field stuff he had to deal with. He could have left on more than one occasion, but he keeps coming back. So he's taking advantage of his redshirt year, I guess, his COVID year. So he's been around a long, long time. He's grown up in this Clemson program as a man. And I think he really wants to go out on a high note. So I would expect him to have a terrific year. And he's backed up by a freshman, T.J. Parker, who they are very high on, 6'3", 255, straight out of Alabama, out of Birmingham, I believe. He's going to get snaps as a backup there, that defensive end spot.
Okay, yeah, because it's another thing. You see, graduate players. I believe there's about what, six out of the starters on defense, which that's a veteran unit. That's, again, it just shows you that without, because a lot of times transfers will come in and you won't see that, but that just shows you maybe that's something that Clemson has that other teams don't. It's a lot of experience there.
No question about it. This group has played a lot of football together.
Together, yes.
Wood came in as a freshman last year and got a lot of snaps. Um, I mentioned, Carter and Trotter. They've been together now playing for 2 years. Um, the secondary, they've played a lot of football together. So yeah, it's an experienced group, top to bottom. I don't really see any weakness at this point in time. If the secondary plays at a higher level, I don't really see a weakness in this defense. They're going to be hard to move the ball against, and that's really a bonus for the offense because they shouldn't feel the pressure to have to
Yeah,
go out and win games. They can go out, score if they want. I mean, if 30 points is all they can do, that should be more than enough.
yeah.
25 points is all they can do. That should be more than enough. Now, the offense might jack it up and go out there and average 40 points a game. We'll wait and see. They don't have to do that with this defense. If this defense allows more than 2 touchdowns a game, they should be around 10 points a game, I would think. Um, Maybe that's asking too much against today's offenses, but still, if they're in that 2 touchdown range per game allowing, that's quite good, and that should be about where this defense is based on this talent.
And as you mentioned, the Duke game, so that gets things started on September 4th. And the fact that it's a road game, too, so that is a nice little test. It's not one of those games where you have to worry about taking on Georgia, but it's still on the road against a team that is on the rise, a program that's on the rise, and maybe they're still on the rise, I guess, 1 year, but we'll see. And then it's Florida State, the next big one. That's on the 23rd at home. But the tough part of the schedule really comes late. The first half of the schedule before the bye, since you got Florida State at home, if Clemson can win that game, there's a good chance that if all goes well, they could be 6-0. But it's that second half of the schedule where if you take out Georgia Tech, the other 5 games are going to be tough.
Absolutely. This first game is going to be tough, I think. I mean,
It will.
Duke, they can sense it. It's going to be a big crowd at their place. I mean, it's only about 35,000. I get it. But uh, they're a good team. They're well coached. They got a lot of people back from last year. Probably not as talented top to bottom as Clemson, but
Oh, yeah.
they're going to have a veteran quarterback who's played a lot of ball for them versus a young guy, stepping in really for his first true road test. Klubnik has never started on the road before. He's only
That's a great
started one
point.
game for Clemson.
Yep.
So now he played a lot in the ACC championship game, but that was neutral site. And he played the bowl
Uh-huh.
game neutral site. This will be his first starting position on the road. We'll see how he handles that. Look at the kid. It's probably a lot of kids they don't blink at this kind of opportunity. They're not nervous. They can handle it, and he probably can. But there's still a question mark until we see what he can do. He has had a propensity in his short career of making bad reads and having turnovers, and that's what they have to control. Um, Assuming they get by this game, their next 2 games, then they get Florida State, and yeah, that will be huge. Of course, that may well be the game for the regular season ACC championship. It may be a preview of a ACC championship game since they don't have divisions anymore. They could finish 1-2 with one of them having a loss,
Yep.
and you could get a repeat in the championship game. So that will be huge. And obviously, Clemson knows that people are picking Florida State. A lot of people are picking Florida State to win it. They're kind of the sexy pick now to win the ACC. The tide has turned, so to speak. And Clemson wants to have something to say about that. Dabo's going to use that psychology of the Roy bus. There's them, and then there's the rest of us.
Yeah.
So we get on the Roy bus. Rest of y'all, I think is how he puts it.
Okay.
Rest of y'all. But yeah, down the stretch, I mean, look, Notre Dame looked awfully good against Navy. Sam Hartman at quarterback now, just kind
Yeah.
of, not that they haven't had bad quarterbacking in the past, but they feel like he gives them something that Ian Book and those other quarterbacks
Oh, yeah.
weren't giving them. And of course, their running game is terrific. I think Miami down there, that could be a tough one. I think Clemson's playing one of its toughest schedules in many years. You could look back in the past when Clemson was at the top, but you'd also say they don't play anybody because the league is so bad, and that was true. But now, look, you got to play an improved Duke team. You got to play a much better Wake Forest team. You got to play a North Carolina team that expects to be better. You got to play Notre Dame, which we see how good they are. You got to go down to Miami. You got to play an improved South Carolina on the road.
Yep,
Uh, that
I agree.
these are not easy pickings. Oh, and I didn't even mention NC State, which
Yeah,
believes they're as good as anybody. So that's seven that's seven tough games that you just can't look at and say those are automatic wins for Clemson anymore like you used to.
that's right. And again, that's 5 out of 6. So to end the season, yeah.
Hmm.
I get the feeling there's we might see a 2-loss team in the ACC championship game. I mean, that's how these teams just beat up each other. That
Hmm.
could be what we get. Now that may mean we don't see a playoff team out of the bunch, but that's one more year, and then next year, the playoffs expand, and you don't have that kind of need anymore to
Water it
run the
down. Let's just
table.
give everybody a trophy. Water it down and let everybody in. I mean, seriously. Of course, college sports, college football, they can make their own decisions to fit their needs. And to me, they just continue to deflate what used to be. I mean, I liked it the way it was. I liked it the old days where we had the bowl games and we had you know the mystery of who was going to be number one, and sometimes we had more. Uh, I mean, it was a vote. I get it. It wasn't really determined on the field, but it did make the tradition of the bowl game still mean something, and you had some sort of reason to watch, on New Year's night
Yeah,
and wonder what was going to happen. Okay, so we go to the BCS formula and we have two teams emerge from that to play for a championship. Fine. More often than not, they got it right. There was maybe a couple of years where you wondered about one of the teams being in there, but most of the time they got it right. Then we go to the 4-team playoff. Okay, well, most of the semifinals have been dogs, right? So how many of these quarterfinal round games are going to be good competitive games? Or maybe it's the second round where, when the teams that get the bye and they're not all beat up after the first week and they're playing at home, um, you know, how many blowouts are we going to get in that round? I just don't know if all this is actually going to be good for everybody. Here we are talking about 2 or 3 loss team making the playoffs. We're going to be like the National Hockey League and the NBA here before you know it.
yeah, that wouldn't be any good. But yeah, you hit it on the head with tradition. That's the thing that has been lost, and I'm not sure we're ever getting it back.
Well, it's our tradition. When I say our, it's the tradition of people who grew up in the '60s and '70s. Now, for the new age fans, this is their new tradition. This is their tradition, and
Yeah, it's still
this is how they want to play it out.
when I hear that Oregon and Oregon State aren't going to be playing for a while, uh, when I hear that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State right now, the way it is on paper, can't play for 13 more years. When I hear things like that, it's just not the college football we grew up,
Yeah.
and that's what we loved about college football were those traditions. And I did like the bowl system a lot better when I was younger than what it is now. Now there's too many teams. Nobody's at the games. They put these stupid matchups, which I don't even want to see. And it's just, yeah, there's a lot that they've just kind of ruined. And nothing, that's why I said I think it's lost. I don't think we're ever going to get that back, unfortunately. So
Well, now you can go to your favorite movie theater on a Saturday and watch ACC football. So,
there you
did you
go.
know that? Did you
No,
know that?
that's pretty cool, right?
They announced today that they're going to be, in fact, the Clemson Duke game will be televised in a network of movie theaters
I like
that
the
the
idea.
ACC and I guess ESPN, the ACC have, put this together to have a stream going into movie theaters so you can watch it on the big, big screen inside your movie theater.
There you go. That'll be
But
before.
good luck. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this. Okay, you go to a movie and to watch the movie with the surround sound and everything they've got, I mean, to really enjoy it, it's got to be quiet, right? It's got to be quiet. How are you going to keep a group of football
Oh
fans,
yeah,
especially if you have a
forget that.
divided group of mixed fans
Yeah,
in the same tight auditorium, even if
no,
it's a big theater, it's a
yeah,
tight auditorium, watching a football game? How are you going to keep them quiet
that ain't
so
gonna
you can
happen.
hear, maybe you want to hear the play by play or whatever? And then, secondly, how are you going to keep them from killing each other? You know,
Well, that's true too.
because,
It better be a home. It better be like, okay, this is for these fans and this is for those fans.
well, can you separate them like that? I mean, I don't
Probably
know what
not.
the plans they have are, but this is fraught with issues, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, they better have security. And I would definitely make sure that you had headsets because if you don't have headsets, like you said, it's going to be very hard to hear what you want to hear. So, yeah, I understand what they're trying. Give them kudos for trying it, but yeah, they'll have to fix a few things before they can
Yeah.
perfect that. That's for sure.
Well, I
Phil,
mean, more seriously, to me, um, I mean, I don't think it's a good look for the ACC, to be honest with you. I mean, what's next? You're gonna be able to watch ACC football while you're pumping gas, and it shows. They got the games on the screens on the pump. They're televising games on the WB, and now they're going to be putting them into a theater. Um, it's like they're desperate. It's like, watch our game anywhere we can put it out there for you. Just please watch our sport. I don't know.
I'm
Would
kind of
they do that to
surprised.
ACC basketball? Would they do that to ACC basketball back in the day?
Yeah, that's true. That's today, forget it. But back in the day, yeah.
Mm.
But I don't understand why it's like everybody can watch it. I don't understand why. I mean, you can't. It's not like you can't watch. It's not like the NFL where you have to pay $300 or
Yeah.
$500 a year to watch your favorite team play all 17, 16 games, whatever it is. So, but yeah, that's unless they say, okay, well, no longer are you going to be able to watch it on regular television. Now you must go to the
Hmm.
movie theater
Right.
to watch your
Right.
favorite college football team.
Right.
So
It's crazy.
this is like the beginning. This is their master plan that they've worked out 10 years from now. Is that let's sucker them in with the free movie theater stuff, but in 10 years,
Oh, nobody said it was free.
yeah,
I'm sure you got to buy a ticket.
of
Nobody said
course,
it was
yeah,
free. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. All right, Phil.
All right.
Well, it should be an entertaining season, so I look forward to
Yep.
the opportunity to talk to you again.
Absolutely. You just let me know.
Will do. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, buddy. Good talking to you.